And this segment is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sports booking app. I mean, a place where it's safe and secure. I mean, that's what we want, right? Safe, secure.
No doubt.
Can't go wrong with that. Also love the fact that, man, when we're talking about DraftKings, some of the things that you have from a luxury standpoint with your bets, we could go money line, right? That's if you just think the Steelers are going to win straight up. You think that a lot, right? It happens, all right. Also, if you want to do some of your prop bets, if you like this player to do that or that player to do this, you got all of that luxury right there, baby. But whatever you do, when you sign up, make sure you use the promo code Moats so you can receive up to $1,000 in deposit bonuses, baby. You don't want to miss that, do you? Would you want to miss out on that?
It doesn't make sense to miss out on it.
Couldn't have said it better, baby. So, what are you waiting on? Download the app, DraftKings Sportsbook. Make sure you use the promo code Moats, baby, and enjoy. But this week, man, we did have some not so good news. After the game, they got results back for Vance McDonald, and it was revealed to the team that he had tested positive for COVID-19. And then through contact tracing, they deemed Big Ben Roethlisberger, Vince Williams, Gerald Hawkins, Jalen Samuels as high risk or were in very close proximity to him. And they're on the COVID reserve list as well. And what that means for the team is those 5 guys, Vance included, aren't allowed in the building for the next, I think it's 5 days, I want to say. And this was obviously the test. They would have got the results back late Sunday, Monday timeframe. So that would mean they can't be back around the team until Saturday. Now, Coach Tom has already said that he anticipates everyone except Vance playing Sunday, barring them having a positive test. But they have to work remotely, so they're not allowed to be around the guys, not allowed to be within the facility. And I still have to see if they release the information or information yet or not in terms of the rest of the team, whether or not they were going to work remotely this week as well.
The whole team.
The whole team to prevent potential spread, because obviously from what Coach Tomlin and the organization said was Vance was showing illness signs on Friday. He was on the injury report Friday. So that means they knew Friday morning he had some type of illness. So they sent him home. Traveled with the team Saturday, took a test for COVID Sunday morning some time frame, but they didn't get the results back until either Sunday night, Monday time frame. We don't really know that timeline in particular. But on the flight back, they were just saying based on the people he was around and the people he's in close proximity with, that's the biggest reason why they're taking these precautions now. But it's unfortunate, man. It's one of those scenarios where, I mean, you probably be naive to think that it wouldn't affect this team directly in terms of having actual positive COVID tests. We've seen them affected in terms of bye week being moved. But this is a situation where now they have at least one positive test and some contact tracing following that. For me, man, I do think both the Steelers and the NFL are at fault. I put more blame on the NFL, though. Just because by rule, the Steelers followed the quote unquote protocols. My biggest issue with the NFL, because there are holes in the protocols in terms of just how they view the testing, how they view a person having an illness, even if they don't have a positive test, and how they react and respond with that. We saw, even a week ago with Marlon Humphrey and how we reacted to that, knowing that, man, this dude was, you knew ahead of time that it was something going on or potential of it, but because he didn't technically have the positive test, you allowed him to go out there, and then obviously has the positive test afterwards. And we saw in Baltimore the different people he had to contact trace with as well. But we've seen this happen multiple times now. Stephon Gilmore, it was another guy, they flew him out separately to a game. Then he tests positive as well. So that part of it, did they follow protocol? Yes. But I feel like when you know just how sensitive this situation is, right? And how it's not a scenario where you feel like you can just avoid it completely. I feel like if you know you can't avoid it, you have to be a little bit more cautious. And if Vance had 0 symptoms, because that's what they tried to say initially, like, well, he was good to go. He didn't show any symptoms. If that was the case, then it's okay, right? I understand, a guy can be asymptomatic and he tests positive down the line. That's fine. We know the incubation period. But he had symptoms. He was showing cold-like symptoms on Friday. It was enough that they sent him home. So to me, I just feel like you have to operate with a little bit more caution in that standpoint, because now, instead of just having one person potentially miss a game, you got 5 guys right now that are kind of in that same window, and we're all just waiting to see what are their results going to be because of a little bit of just not having that abundance of caution. And we have seen other teams take that abundance of caution. So it's not as if we're asking them to do, in terms of the Steelers, asking them to do something that other teams haven't done. But like I said, that's the part where that's for the Steelers. In terms of the NFL as a whole, I just feel like you have to police this better. It's no different. I looked at it with the concussion scenario, right? We talked about how in the past a guy could be, have his bell rung, but they're going to ask the player, do you want to go back in? The player's always going to say yes. So that's why they went to the rule of having the independent neurologist on the sideline. So if they view it and say, hey, man, this isn't okay, you take that decision out of the coaching staff's hand. You take that decision out of the player's hand, right? But when it comes to the COVID situation right now, the NFL really isn't doing that. They are allowing teams that, hey, well, as long as he doesn't have a positive test, yeah, it's okay for him to travel. Yeah, it's okay for him to play in the game. And we're seeing the negative element of that. So that to me is a bigger issue. I think the NFL definitely needs to correct that so that way we can continue this thing and not have to worry about potential outbreaks with every team every time one person gets a positive test.
So you're talking about just the cold, like if you have the symptoms or whatever.
Yeah, because this is the
test or not.
Yeah, if you look at the symptoms of COVID, you look at the symptoms of the flu, and you look at symptoms of a cold. We're not talking about the regular worker. We're talking about NFL team, right? We're talking about guys who are trying to play in the game. We're trying to keep everyone, quote unquote, healthy and stuff like that so they can play in these games. You have to err on the side of caution that if a guy is showing any cold-like symptoms, if he has a cough, if he has a sore throat, if he has a runny nose, if he has a fever, you have to just lump it in there because when they do the test, that's ultimately how they're viewing it as well. So for me, I don't think you can just treat it as, oh, it's just a cold right here, because you can't really differentiate the two as it stands today. Now, we're not saying that information can't come out and that change down the line, but as it stands today, the symptoms of those three are pretty much identical.
Yeah. Well, it seems like everyone's going to be good because they all tested negative right after, right? They did the test the day after or after the game, correct? Everyone tested negative. So yeah, they're just, I guess this is just their whole precautionary or guidelines with the NFL to where, Ben, Vince, Hawkins.
That's more so because of throughout this season, we've seen where a guy tests negative and then 2 or 3 days later he tests positive, where a guy has 2 negative tests and then through incubation after a couple of days, a positive comes out. So it's not even the Steelers operating with the abundance of caution that I was just talking about. That's more so them just following.
Well, that's the guidelines. That's the NFL guidelines, correct? And it's happened with the Ravens. It happened with Matt Stafford last week. Where
happened with the Raiders. Happened with the Titans.
Was it with the Ravens? Where was it? How many players was it? 7 or 8?
Yeah,
did all of them come back except Humphrey?
I didn't look into who all came back after that.
Stafford came back. So I mean, the percentages are there. That all right. I think these guys are going to be good to go. So that's what I'm hoping, and that's what I'm thinking as well.
Yeah, and for me, it's less about who plays and who doesn't play. It's more so the flaw in the system, because today is Vance and these group, right? And the group that we just named. 2 weeks from now, it could be Isaiah Buggs in another group. And then down the line, it could be this player in another group. And to avoid that, that's what I'm saying, man. You're playing with fire essentially by going this route. And that's why I said I feel like more of that blame falls on the NFL, because I mean, as much as we would want the team to operate with common sense in some of these scenarios and just say, well, hey, if a guy looks like he's showing any type of symptoms, just keep him away so you don't have to worry about your quarterback, your linebacker, these guys having to be in this quote unquote situation where they're not even in the facility.
Where they have to miss some game on some bullshit.
Yeah. Like, so to avoid that, you would hope common sense would prevail, but we that's not the team's job though. That's why I feel like it's more NFL related, because they have to police it for these teams. You can't ask teams to all operate the exact same way or all operate with the same abundance of caution and just common sense in that scenario. The NFL, man, we know it's driven by the dollar. We know that part. So for the NFL, man, you have to make sure you protect that. You're not going to be able to get the ratings that you want or have the big time games that you want if you have to deal with this type of stuff. I mean, even though I fully anticipate the guys outside of Vance playing, imagine we're in the playoffs right now. This scenario happens. And no, even though Ben are playing the game, right? All the guys are playing the game. You know, you're starting quarterback and you're starting linebacker. They're not going to practice with the team for 4 days, 5 days, and they come out there and play in the game. Even though we think they're capable of playing well, we would all agree they play a lot better when they're practicing and with the guys, the time and everything is right. We would feel some type of way about that. I'm personally trying to prevent that from happening, because right now, the way they're operating with this thing, that's going to be the case. And it's unfortunate, man.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Like, just as the Steelers, as a team, like, do what's best for us,
right?
Long term, whatever it is. I get you. Like,
and the thing is,
God,
Vance played 20 snaps on Sunday, so it's not as if, oh man, we hey man, kind of like we joked about, man, if it was Ben, would you do it? Would you not do it? It's not even that scenario with this right here. So even more so, why would you even put these guys in this position where now, even though we feel like these guys are going to play, it's still, all right, if you do play, you're not practicing at all this week with the guys. You're strictly virtual. I think they're allowing Ben to come in to do treatment.
I did hear that,
even with that, it's still just crazy to me, man.
Yeah, it's weird. In this scenario, I don't know how much Ben would be practicing necessarily anyway because of the whole knees and stuff. But yeah, if you're taking this scenario in 4 or 5 weeks down the line, if something similar happens, it's not optimal, especially if there's an important game or if it is a playoff game.
Absolutely, man. And that would be, I mean, we know how this thing goes. If you lose a game because the team just played better, you played bad in the game, all right, cool. That's not the end of the world. We can live with that. If you lose a game because your starters couldn't practice all week, not that they had a positive test, but because they were around somebody that had a positive test, and instead of them isolating that guy, they allowed him to be around the guys, we would be livid. You know what I mean? And that's just how I feel like any organization is going to feel right now looking at this thing outside in. So yeah, let's avoid that from happening, man. I want the good players to play. I want the players to play. It's no offense to Mason or Dobbs, but I don't want them out there. I'd rather have Ben out there. You know what I mean? But right now, you put that in jeopardy by that negligence. And that's my issue with it.